Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 284.
Yeah.
Another update episode.
Yeah, update episode. I like our update episodes.
Well, I know you got good news on this one.
Got good news.
So let's just bring it out there. But before we do that, I want to talk about our latest sponsor, Pixel Cut. I've been joining us on these episodes. And if you're wondering what Pixel Cut is, it's an app that basically allows you to seamlessly remove the background for your items, whether you're doing eBay, Poshmark, even on Amazon if you're doing listings, Depop, whatever avenue you need to. And there's plenty of templates on there depending on what platform you're selling on. And there's also other uses, right? For example, you want to maybe use it for a headshot, for a new job interview, or for a podcast that you're trying to drive traffic through, or through to, right? You want to drive it to, not through.
Yeah, you don't want to drive it through it. But yeah, Pixel Cut is great. I mean, it's nice because it's available on Android and it's available on Apple. So no matter what platform you're on, you can get it. And it's fast, it's easy. And it's one of those things where you can be out on the road, you can be mobile, you can be in a place where you don't have a light box, and you can take a picture of an item, get that infinite white background. It's going to look like a professionally done in a white box. And it's going to be super fast, super easy, and you're gonna have professional quality pictures, even in the trunk of your car. That's usually how I use it. So Pixel Cut is great. Definitely check it out. Link in the description below.
There we go. So check it out. Pixel Cut, Android and iOS. All right. So I want to know, I'm going to ask you how are things, but I'm sure everybody that's been tuning in lately just wants to know, is it done?
So we sold the fifth wheel. We finally sold the fifth one. Man, what an adventure. It was crazy experience. And the hard part is, so for those of you who don't know, brief description. We've lived in a fifth wheel for the last, going on 2.5, 3 years. And it was a great opportunity. We are selling it and have sold it now, not because we don't enjoy fifth wheel living or we didn't think we can continue to do it. We could have done fifth wheel living another 5 years, I'm sure. But the market was just so high, and we kind of started doing the math and doing, all of the pros and cons. I'm really big on that. And it was kind of like, why were we in the fifth wheel in the first place? Mm-hmm. We wanted to be in the fifth wheel in order to save some money and build up equity when we sold it. Well, we saved the money. We paid off cars. We paid off debt. We did all kinds of things, paid off some medical debt from my son. We basically paid everything off. My wife was able to stay home. We were able to ramp up reselling. And then it was like, okay, the last step we had was we wanted to build some equity. Well, we were able to actually sell our fifth wheel for about $4,000 less than we bought it for.
Wow.
After living in it for 3 years.
That's pretty wild.
It's crazy, right? Like, we were expecting, okay, we're going to be able to get, maybe 30 to 40% of what we bought in equity when we end up selling this thing. Maybe 50% if we're lucky. When we sell this 5 years down the road, once it's all paid off or whatever. And we were able to basically sell it for the same price we bought it for. So it's just kind of crazy to think that the market was that high. But the problem was we spent so much time every weekend, sometimes throughout the week, showing it to people.
Yep.
And every time we showed it, it was like a first date, because you got to get to know them and their story and why do they want the fifth wheel. And you got to, spend an hour showing them all the ins and outs of it. And then, all right, well, text me back if you're interested. And then maybe there's a couple more texts back and forth. And then maybe they ghost you. Maybe they keep going. Maybe their deal falls through, whatever. And it was literally just all these random first dates, and it was miserable. And we got ghosted a few times. We had some really good people who they just had circumstances not work out for them. And finally we sold it to a good family. We're really excited for them. They kind of have the same plan that we have. And so it's nice because now I have my weekends free again. I can start sourcing and listing and start thinking about, okay, what's our next step? So it was a good experience, and I don't regret it at all. If I could go back and redo it, I would redo it 100%. And if the market wasn't as high as it was right now, I think we would stay in it for another 4 to 5 years. But it was like, why not pull the trigger now? Before mortgage rates, interest rates go up, maybe now's the time to buy. So we were just kind of, want those options, and this gave us the options.
So I have a question, and you've answered this before, but now in retrospect. So we had mentioned way back when you were first doing the trailer, it was a big deal. It was a big discussion on the podcast, and kind of doing the podcast, I feel like it led to the trailer. Or am I off? Was there outside circumstances, or did reselling bring a different angle that you wouldn't have thought about before?
Yeah, I mean, reselling for sure. So when my wife and I first got married, we kind of did something similar. Her parents had an old kind of beat up fifth wheel that we used for a few months while we were, trying to get ourselves established here in San Diego. And so we knew we could do it. But it really was like reselling. We started to see we can make some money. And I was like, man, like we're making some money now. And if we could take some of that money, my wife could stay home. She could stay with our son and she can help with the resale business. And yeah, I mean, the fifth wheel, we couldn't have done it. We couldn't have paid off all the debt that we had. And it wasn't like we had like a lot of debt because we didn't have credit card debt or anything like that. But we had some medical debt. We had, a car payment. We had student loans, like a lot of things we were able to get paid off because of the fifth wheel. And so, yeah, reselling just changed our mind on that of, well, you could stay home, make pretty decent money, us working together on this reselling thing. And we're going to have to make some sacrifices though. Like we can't do that and live where we're living now, or it's going to take twice as long because most of the profit we make off reselling is going to be just to kind of maintain our standard of living. So there's really two different ways to get ahead, right? One way is to make more money. The second way is to spend less, right? Like those are the two things. And if you could do those two things in tandem, you could do them together, you're really going to be better off. And so we were like, okay, we're going to be taking somewhat of a pay cut with my wife leaving her job. So we have to mitigate that, offset that with the, spending less each month. And we did that by purchasing a fifth wheel. And we, for the most part, kept our payments. Like if we paid, it was like $1,700 for rent, like we were paying like close to $1,500 on the fifth wheel. We didn't need to pay that much, but we were paying as much as we could. But the nice thing was we were building equity that entire time.
Yeah.
Whereas rent, we wouldn't have done that. So it was definitely reselling led us to that. And it allowed, it was challenging reselling out of a fifth wheel, like using other offices, not having internet, all of those things. But it was a cool experience. I enjoyed it. And it's like a chapter of my life closing, and now I get to see where reselling will lead me next.
Agreed. So I asked that because in the last 2 weeks, I've been following a lot about inflation and I've been trying to do my research, and we'll have a whole episode about reselling during a recession if we get there, which I think we're pretty close, unless, there's some Hail Mary thing that happens, not a black swan. Black swan will drive us into recession, but a Hail Mary where, things begin to turn around. I think we may be there. But I was thinking, inflation, right? If I was working, and I know, you're working still like 9 to 5, whatever, you're a teacher, right? It's a little different when you're a teacher. You don't see it as a 9 to 5, but it is, for all intentions, like there's a set amount of money you make,
job, yeah.
Right? And with inflation, right, you're basically working 1 month or maybe more for free, right? Because if it goes up 10% and you don't get a raise, that's kind of where you're at. And I remember that was one of the hardest things when I was in education was every year I got a raise, but I was never able to get an exponential raise, like something substantial. Like it was nice. And the only time I got a jump was when I moved from being a teacher to being an administrator. And even that jump wasn't in my salary. It was more on the benefits that I had negotiated. And so, if it wasn't for reselling, I would have felt stuck. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay the bill? I'm thinking about right now, and I know a lot of you are dealing with this. My gas expenses has gone up to about $200 to $300 extra a month and the gas prices have gone up like immensely, right? And especially here in California, I live by the cheapest gas in San Diego or maybe in Southern California, and even still, it's gone up a lot, and that begins to cut into it into your lifestyle, because what ends up happening is that $200 to $300 that's a bill now. That's an extra bill that you weren't paying before. Right. And so it begins to change. So how do you adjust that? Well, in reselling, right, it's a formula. Find more quality items and list more. Right. It's not easy. It's simple to find out how to do it, but it's not easy to do. And so I've been ramping things up because reselling has allowed me to go, okay, is it possible that where I'm living now is going to cost me more in the next 2 months, which I hope not. I've been good here. So, I'm hoping if they even catch this podcast that they'll consider not doing that. But reality is everything's going up. My electricity's gone up. I live in a larger place now, so my electricity bill is double of what it was before. Everything, food, and we can go on and on about inflation, but reselling gives you options that the 9-to-5 doesn't. Right? With the 9-to-5, you could pick up a side hustle, you could pick up more work. Mike could keep reselling more if he needs to. But again, I think reselling gives you a different mindset. Like you don't feel stuck. Like there's no option. So anyway, that's just thinking about that. Now, as far as what I've been up to, I did hit 3K plus listings by the time of this podcast. I will tell you it was not easy. It meant being, I hate using this word, disciplined and listing every single night. I always wanted to make sure I was listing more than I was selling. And I know everybody throws numbers. Like some people throw like you need to sell 30 items a day or 20 items a day. My formula was I need to make sure I at least list, more or double of what sold that day. So if I did that, right, my numbers keep going up. And so it took some work, and that's without my helper. And so once my helper kicks in, I think I'm going to be pushing towards 3,500 listings by the end of April. And so, I'm trying to grow my store exponentially because two things. Number one, I think with the recession, is based on all the research I've done, is reselling fares better during a recession than during normal times because people are looking for the bargain. Second is I anticipate my expenses are going to go up at least 10 to 20% in the next year. And it's not a thing about going broke. It's a thing about I don't want to change my lifestyle. I enjoy my life right now. I enjoy not having to worry, can I go out to eat with my kids this Sunday? Or, I enjoy the fact, hey, I want to go on a trip in a couple months. Like I enjoy my lifestyle. I'm not looking to get rich. I'm just looking to keep my lifestyle the way it is. And so there's that. The lesson about the more you list, the more you sell is true. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to make a ton more money. I've said this before, just because you double your listings doesn't mean you're going to make double the money, but you will make more. You will make more. And, I only went up, let's see, from 2,400 to 3,000. So let's say 20 something percent. Did my income go up 20% on eBay? I would say maybe 10 or 15%, And then the last thing, I know I had mentioned I was going to be on the Whatnot app and we're going to be selling. It's funny because I never heard back from them. Like I applied and other resellers were like, Orlando, just contact the person that runs it directly. And I got caught up with a lot of things and I didn't do that. And then during the podcast, I got the text. You've agreed. Let's see what they say. They said, congratulations, Orlando. You've been selected to be a live seller on Whatnot. And so keep an eye. Going to be doing an auction here in the next several days. Probably my first one's going to be vintage hats. And we'll see where we goes. But there is some heavy competition coming on Whatnot. We're going to be talking about that in our reseller topics. So you have any random stories?
I do.
All right. Let's move on to random stories. We'll talk about our Patreon after.
All right. So we've had conversations in the past about what to do when you sell an item and there's an issue. Seems like customers complaining, they want to get a refund, right? And one of the items that I sold, and I'm a big fan of selling electronics as used for parts. Now, unless I've done the work, if there's a significant difference in the price between, working, tested, all of those things versus used for parts, and I have the ability and time to test it, I'll probably test it. But a lot of times we're talking about maybe a 20% difference depending on the item. Mm-hmm. And so for me, for the safety, the protection of knowing, hey, I don't know if every single feature in this works perfectly, especially if it's going to a collector or somebody, like they're going to know, like, wait a minute, the such and such waves on this frequency skip at 2.8 gigahertz. I don't know. Right. Like, so I'm selling this used as is for parts. Right. Like, yeah. And by doing that, I'm eliminating that. Well, this part doesn't here work, or it doesn't work perfectly. And a lot of times you can show like it works, it turns on, it's been tested to this extent. This is how much I've tested it. So I did that with a big laser disc player that I picked up for $5. I got a really good deal on it at a church rummage sale. And I saw that they were going, tested everything working perfectly for over 100, for parts around 70. And I ended up getting an offer. It sat for a little bit. I got a couple of offers on it. And the hard part was like, I just knew it was going to cost a lot to ship. I didn't know exactly how much. I kind of guesstimated like $25 and ended up being right about that, about $25. Okay. So the shipping I was perfect on, but I sold it for $50. So $75 total, $50 for the unit, $25 for shipping. So I ship it, don't make anything on the shipping, and it gets to the person. And we did the best we could as far as packaging. But when it's like a big item like that, it was like over 20 pounds, it's electronics. it's tough. You know what I mean? Like you can put some styrofoam, bubble wrap, you kind of float a box.
Float the box.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you do all those things perfectly. And when it's that heavy of an item, all it takes is for, the USPS person to just kind of push it out the back of their truck, or it fall in the back of the truck and something else fall on top of it. And there's still potential damage. If it's not like factory sealed with like perfectly fit, foam, there's potential for damage. And so it gets the guy and he complains about some damage that obviously wasn't there with the pictures. And so we did what we typically suggest. And most of the time it works out in our favor, which is one, offer them, I said, send pictures, right? I'm not going to just refund you. You've got two options. You can send it back or I can give you a partial refund. Like, what would you like? And he says, well, it seems silly to send it back when it's broken. I don't want to pay for the shipping back, blah, blah, blah. I'll take a partial refund. Well, I go to the next step, right? Our next step is let them give the price, right? Like if you sometimes, depending on the situation, you'd say, well, I'll give you 20% off, I'll give you 50% back. But what I've found several times in the past is by saying like, what seems like, how much would you like to get back? Or what kind of partial refund would you like? A lot of times they're going to give you a number lower than you would offer. Yep. Right? Like sometimes it's
reverse bargaining.
Yeah. So they'll say like, well, how about 50% off? And it's like, sweet, I was going to give you 80, right? Or vice versa, they're going to give you a lot of times a number lower. Well, this person was pretty hardcore about, I feel like I'm being gypped. I feel like I'm being scammed. Like you're going to have to, I'll pay for the shipping, but I want the price of the unit back. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to basically wash on this, right? The shipping was fine. There's the fees on eBay. Okay, I lost a little bit, $5, whatever. It's worth it for me to it's out of my storage unit. I'm not going to obviously be able to sell it. It comes back broken the way it's broken now. Fine. If this is what's going to keep me from getting a negative feedback, I'll take the wash. I'll refund you the cost of the unit. $50, it's back to you. Get the response from them. Thank you. I get a horrible negative feedback from this guy.
Really?
Just like, this person went off, right? Negative feedback. I'm not as described, blah, blah, blah. Like they went off. And so we didn't even have to call eBay. We just opened up a request to remove feedback. And we said, this item was sold 4 parts. Mm-hmm. They said it was damaged in shipping. We fully refunded the item.
The 4 parts item was damaged in shipping.
The 4 parts item was damaged in shipping. We offered a refund. And within like 5 minutes, we got a response from eBay and said, this falls in our categories of blah, 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 blah. It's eligible to have the negative feedback removed. Your negative feedback will be removed within 24 to 48 hours. We're like, oh no, that's a long time. And it was within a couple hours.
They always say that. It's boilerplate.
Yeah. So it was removed within an hour or two. So it was just nice to know that one, we were covered by eBay on that, but you never know. I would say 70% of the time, following all those steps work in your favor as far as, they're going to sometimes just not respond at all. You get to keep the money. They're like, they just want an event. Sometimes they respond and they're willing to take a partial refund that's less than you were going to offer. But sometimes they're pretty, intense and they want the entire thing paid back. And there's nothing I could do at that point besides just do it, take the loss. But at least I know I'm covered with the return shipping.
Did you go to the eBay seller help page?
We just did it on our app of the request.
You could do that?
Yeah, it was a request negative or request feedback removal.
There's a whole page called the eBay seller help. So you Google eBay seller help and it takes you to, let me see what the address is. Yeah, it's ebay.com/seller help. And there's a whole page there that requests to remove feedback, requests to remove defects, request a selling limit increase, report an issue with the buyer, need more help. And you can check status. And I've always said this is interesting that eBay doesn't just have this connected to the seller hub, or maybe they do. Let us know in the comments if I'm off, but you don't know what you don't know, but that's why I ask you. So it's nice that within the app, you're able to do that. Okay, well, good. Now, what do you think the rationale was for eBay removing it? Do you think it's because you offered a return? Do you think, what did they put? Is it because the guy cursed at you in the feedback?
I mean, he didn't curse. He was just he's very negative.
Okay.
No, I think it was a combination. I mean, I might have been okay if I would have fought it harder and just said, sorry, like you can return it and pay for the shipping return. It was sold as is. But, you feel bad. Like I sold it. Clearly, there was some extra damage, like part of the top broke off of it, and it's for parts. I have a feeling this guy was planning on, because he goes, I'll just add it to my pile of parts and I'll just pull off of it if I need to, but I feel like I'm being screwed. And it's like, I have a feeling that was your plan anyways, is you just use components from it. Because if you're buying a Laserdisc player for parts only,
yeah,
I doubt it was like, I'm buying this because I want to watch a Laserdisc movie tomorrow. You know what I mean? He's probably works on it. He probably wanted one for parts for one, or who knows? Maybe he was lying, and maybe the pictures, the broken one he sent me was the one that he was replacing with mine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but it wasn't worth it for me fighting it. So I think it was a combination of, one, I offered return, two, it was for parts only. So maybe I didn't even need to offer the partial refund. And then three, I've got a good reputation with eBay because I have good sales, good customer service, and I think all those things added up. No negative feedback. Sucks that I lost that sale on that item, but oh well, life moves on.
The only reason I asked too is because, a lot of people, we used to recommend people contact eBay for business on Facebook, and a lot of people have been messaging us that they're taking forever to get back to people, or like they're not, removing stuff. And so, and I know a lot of people say, well, you guys have concierge, but that wasn't even a concierge thing. That was right through the app, unless it's tied into concierge. I don't know. So anyways, well, I'm glad it all resolved. So, all right. Hey, before we move on though to, I have a crazy garage sale story, and some of you saw this on Instagram this last week, but just wanted to share more of it. We're on Patreon. We've switched over. It's been a while now. So, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/PureHustle Podcast. On there, you're able to support us. And again, it's not because there's a paywall or you get access to anything different yet. Now, there won't be a paywall on the podcast, but there might be, special features that those that support us on Patreon will have access to. And so we're working on some of that possibly. But right now, it's just a way to say thank you. So there's different tiers. We're grateful for all of you that have signed up. It definitely helps us, especially, when we got to step away from reselling to record a podcast or make a YouTube video. So thank you for all your support. Again, it's patreon.com/PureHustle Podcast. All right. So I got to say, I went to an estate sale, a quote unquote garage sale, and I was just shocked. Two reasons I was shocked. One is I woke up late on Saturday because I kind of, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's because of gas prices, but there's just not a lot of garage sales in San Diego. And I know that sounds weird because people are like, oh, we get, like in my town, it's only 10 is a good day. For us, 400 is a good day. And in our area where we live, usually 100 plus is a good day. Lately, it's been about like 200. And then out of the 200 in our area that we live, and usually it's like, I don't know, 30 to 50. And then even those 30 to 50, how some people repost on Craigslist? And so maybe it's down to 20, and then you get down to the 20, then you're like, all right, this one seems like it has junk. This one doesn't have much. This is way too out of the way. Then it cuts down to like 10. Right. And so it's been really slim. Like the other day, I was reliving the glory days of one of my friends, Kyle, who we had been talking about, man, remember the days when we would go to like these community sales and it seemed like a wonderland of garage sales, like everywhere. Like those days, they're gone. Like, I don't know if they're going to come back. I'm hoping they come back, but it's just not like that anymore. Anyways, I go to the estate sale and it's like 8:45 in the morning, and I go in there and it's one of the best. Here's the thing. When you go to an estate sale and things are not priced and there's no company there, it's just like, just family, just trying to sell stuff and nothing's been sorted through. You do not want to leave that estate sale. You want to stay there as long as possible because you have no idea like what you'll find. And on top of that, you also got to search out. So what I noticed real quick was that there were certain items that the people running the estate sale looked up on eBay and they wanted eBay prices. And then there's other stuff that they didn't care about. So one of the items I picked up real quick, I went out there and I see a bin, and in this bin, there's all these vintage Star Wars toys, like 1978 Kenner, 1980 Kenner. And there's all these other old toys in there. And I'm like, and they're like trash, but I've learned that, vintage toys, even for parts sell. So I picked them all up. And then there's this other guy that's like searching through this box with me. And, I kind of feel bad, but like business is business. So I'm in the box with him. Like, I don't know is there a sacred space? Like, should you not search a box that somebody else is searching?
Yeah, man. A box per person, you know.
But there's only one box. So anyways, I go in there and this guy looks at me like, hey, I know you. You taught my son years ago. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And then I remembered and he was telling me how like he kills it. Like he goes to the Rose Bowl and makes thousands every time he sells vintage clothing.
Nice.
And it was just weird. Like, you know, because he knows me as a history teacher. And, you know, I usually back in those days, I would wear like slacks and a tie. And, you know, now whatever, I wear what I wear when I go to garage sales. And I didn't have this huge goatee. Like I was always like not clean shaven, but it was, you know, close to the face. But it was great. You know, we were talking about how like a lot of people don't understand reselling, right? The fact that you can actually make really good money reselling if you play it right. So anyways, we're talking and then, you know, I know he's doing vintage clothing and then I see these boxes and these boxes have not been opened. They're like untouched. And I asked the lady running the estate, so I'm like, hey, can I go through these boxes? She's like, oh yeah, I was going to donate all that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, oh, it's probably trash. I go through it. It's like Pendleton, vintage polo, Pendleton, vintage polo. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so I'm going through all this and I have all my old Star Wars toys and all this other stuff. And I put it and I bundle them and I go and you know, I haggle and she's like, oh, the clothing's free. I was like, free? What? Like that's the most valuable of everything that I'm picking up here. So whatever, made a deal. If you caught us on Instagram, I paid $70 and, you know, I've already, I'm going to make money off of selling like one of the items, right? I'll probably make my money back selling two of the items. And then what caught me is that, you know, there was all kinds of resellers. I saw people like walking out with old Halloween masks. I saw people walking out with like vintage, like tech equipment and so on. And I was like, this is one of those estates. I was like, I feel bad. But Mike did text me while I was there, I think, and said the fifth wheel is gone. So I know he was doing fifth wheel stuff. But it was kind of one of those where it's like, come on. Like there's enough for everybody to go around here. And once I heard it was free, I go back and then, you know, I was impressed. There was a guy there that was in high school I didn't know he was in high school. He was like searching through all this. And we started talking. And, you know, I was impressed by his hustle. Like, I wish I was doing what this kid was doing at 16, 17. And, you know, on the way out, they literally like threw all this like trash, like what they thought was trash outside of the estate sale. And him and he's like, hey man, there's some shirts out here. And he's like, look at what I picked up. And, you know, I went through his stuff. I don't know why I did that. I think I just wanted to feel pain. I don't know, you know, like this is all I missed out on. And a really nice guy though. He found the Pendleton. He's like, hey man, take this Pendleton. I'm like, oh, appreciate it. I go through it. I find vintage He-Man toys. I found more vintage clothing, lawn like chairs. And I was like, this is crazy. So I spent probably 2 to 3 hours at this estate sale and just made a killing. I mean, I spent in total $90. The thing that everybody was all about, I'll talk about this later on. Oh no, I'm not even making a bolo. It was like a wicker basket. It was a frog with marble eyes. And I paid like $2-3 maybe for it. And the comps were like over $100.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, you're always learning something new, you know? Anyways, I bring this up because you never know. Like I'm always a fan of, even if you don't want to, you should always go get up on a Saturday morning. You know, it depends on your business model, but if you do garage sales, like you should just go. Like that whole morning, I did pick up I picked up for $2 a bunch of vintage like tanks and Jeep toys, like Roco, I think was a company. And I've already sold, I paid $2 for all of it. And I've already sold half of it for $60. Right. So did I expect that? No, I showed up late and the lady was telling me like, oh, these kinds of collectors showed up and bought this. Well, they missed these, you know? So there's always opportunity when you go to garage sales. So I encourage you to wake up in the morning. Yeah. So, and I could talk so much about this garage sale. There was so much.
Did you make a YouTube video on it?
No, because, well, I didn't like, I woke up late. There was only like 6 garage sales I was going to. I didn't expect
Always
anything.
Be recording, man.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
why
But
you just need to throw a GoPro
But here's
on.
the thing. I do think it would have thrown off my game because those empty boxes, like I flew through them because I knew once resellers knew what I had there, even the other guy, he didn't even know. Like I said, hey, did you see these? He's like, no. And I feel like he had this look in his eyes like, oh man, like what did I miss out on? But I was flying through the boxes. Like Pendleton for free? Like some of those shirts are going to go for 50 to 80 bucks a piece.
That's crazy.
Can't let it go. So, all right. That's my random stories. So, all right. Are you in need of some packaging material?
You know, I would say I was in need of packaging material, except for I'm never in need of packaging material because I use American Bubble Boy.
Okay.
And American Bubble Boy gets me my bubble wrap at the cheapest prices fast. I mean, I'm talking 2 days max. I place the order. I'm like, oh, I'm getting low. Place my order. A couple days later, boom, delivered right to the door. Just beautiful, perfect bubble wrap. American Bubble Boy. If you're not using American Bubble Boy, you got to give it a try. I mean, it's good bubble wrap. It really is. It's going to be just as good as anything you're using right now or better. And it's great prices and it comes straight to you. And with gas prices the way they are now, you don't want to be driving to stores, picking up, especially if you're going to like somewhere like Walmart or something, you're paying even more than you should be.
And
paying.
then they're out of stock and then you got to go to another store. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. So American Bubble Boy, get it delivered to your house, the size you want, whether you want 4 foot long, 2 foot long, whether you want big bubbles, small bubbles, it's amazing bubble wrap. Pick it up. And use our link below. And if you're a first-time buyer, you'll get a nice little discount, and it lets them know that we sent you.
So use promo code Pure Hustle Podcast. Get that discount. First-time buyer.
Are we doing that instead of the link?
No, it's both.
Okay. Maybe use the link. I've seen a couple more people saying they're having issues with the promo code. So yeah. So at least if you're having an issue with the promo code, try the link and then let us know.
All right. Hey, if you have not been following us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter. Appreciate all of you following us on Twitter. Our Twitter queue continues to grow, even though we don't tweet, but we need to tweet more. As always, you can give us a call, 619-738-1170, 619-738-1170. You know, we have enough hustles of the week in the email. Like we're getting closer that if we get phone calls of hustles of the week, we could do a whole hustle of the week episode here soon, which we may do that soon. So if you have a hustle of the week you want to share, leave us a voicemail, 619-738-1170. And again, don't think that your hustle of the week is like, it's not 5 to 1,000. It's okay if it's 5 to 100, if it's 5 to 50, right? It's all about the story. All about finding that treasure. So give us a call. Again, 619-738-1170. You can always shoot us an email, purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. It's purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening to this podcast for the first time and you do not know that we are on YouTube, come over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button right now if you're watching us, and hit that bell notification. And as always, thank you for all the iTunes reviews. Keeps us the #1 reselling podcast out there. Really appreciate the feedback. And so thank you so much for leaving a comment there. All right, we got a few things to talk about here in our reselling topics.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, I'm just waiting for the sound. Are we doing the sound?
You want the sound?
Yeah, you got to intro this.
Orlando is ready for the topics, but I wasn't. That is sad. But that's okay because we are going to be talking about what is happening in the reselling world. Changes are happening, but we're still making money. Orlando, take it away.
All right, so there's I don't know, there's always stuff, and we're not big fans of the store that shall not be named. We're talking about Goodwill, and I know that was it last episode where we talk about the good things about Goodwill.
Yeah,
right. And the Goodwill does
there are good things.
There are a lot of good things, but man, this story came out and they hit the reselling community on Instagram and other social media. And this idea, so BitStitch broke this story. I don't know, where they got the info, but it's basically a third party has been beta testing with a store. I think it's in like Colorado, to list their items for them. So basically, what this company does is they use AI. Oh, I was about to read it and it just went away. But it's basically. Do I need to step up to the mic? Let me see if I can let me just read it instead of trying to tell you. Goodwill of Colorado recently brought on a company that specializes in AI and machine learning with the sole purpose to help them list items online for resale. Although maybe just a beta test, this could be the beginning of the end for thrifting as we know it. Their goal is to list thousands of items every month and automate the process to make it even more profitable for Goodwill. And then, like, the comments just exploded, and other Instagram accounts posted the story. And I was thinking about this because I would say, a few years back, I would have been really, really annoyed. And I remember a few years ago, I don't know if they still do it. I need to keep up, but there was Golden Finger Picker and there's Hearts Picker and Craigslist Hunter. And they used to do like this, kind of like podcast posts on YouTube, and they would talk about stuff. And I remember them talking about like, we shouldn't be upset about Goodwill's high prices, right? Because they're a business, right? And so why wouldn't they try to make the profit there to help, Goodwill be able to help other programs? And my argument isn't the best. That's not exactly how they put it, but it's basically, it's just business. Like what we would do the same, right? And I know there's plenty more to be said, but it was basically the idea like you got to maneuver and figure out, how to grow your business with knowing that and then play. And I was looking through this, and we've talked about this in the past where I couldn't find a news article, but there's a whole news article, I think in the San Francisco Chronicle, about Goodwill, using eBay back in like 2005. And how they have it all streamlined to list on eBay, and that's what they do. And then I found another article that in 2010 there was actually a Goodwill app that was like being developed, where you go to the Goodwill app and then it would take you to their Amazon site, their Goodwill site, their eBay site, their half.com back. Is half.com around anymore?
I don't know.
No, right? Anyways, all those sites. So I see a bunch of people, I saw a bunch of people, and I'm not, saying anything negative about the comments, but it was like, this is the end, like greed will, like this is going to doom our businesses, rest in peace, thrifting and all this. And I'm just looking at this and I'm like, and I know Mike's probably going to give a counterpoint, but I'm looking at all this and I'm like, this is just competition. Like it's not any different than if 1,000 new resellers come on. The only difference I could see in this is if somehow, one day there's a AI technology that learns how to source items, learns how to do other things that resellers can do that the AI can do, is able to understand, when to take offers, when not to take offers. Like there's a whole lot of human aspects that no third party could go in and be Goodwill.
Yeah.
Or help Goodwill beat resellers.
Yeah. I mean, I think, okay, there's several things at play here. One is this is one place, right? And of course they have a huge market in the thrifting world. But I think you're right in the sense of, okay, this one way of looking at it is whatever third party that created this, it's hard to be mad at them because they're following the same thing we're doing. They saw a need, they came in, they filled the need. But I have a little bit of doubts about how successful it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said in the past that they've tried a lot of different things to try.
Remember
to
the Offer Up collab that happened?
Yeah.
And what happened to that?
Yeah. So I just look and I think, okay, there's still going to have to be a huge human element to this as far as people taking pictures of the items, putting in at least a basic description of it if there's any kind of flaws or anything like that, which means if they're doing 50 to 70% of the listing process anyways before it goes to this third party, then is it really that much different than them just doing it and hiring a couple of extra people to like finish up the process? So, because if it's not a perfect process without, Goodwill having to do a lot of the work up front, then there's going to be a lot of upset customers. You buy something from Goodwill on eBay and there's a good chance that the measurements aren't perfect or that there's problems with it that wasn't listed. So either that's going to happen and people just won't buy and then Goodwill will switch this process, or two, Goodwill is just ramping up because they're going to have to do a lot of that work of, did they get enough pictures? Did they describe it well enough? Did they show whether it was working? Did they click all the boxes? And at that point, I almost feel like you're listing the item. How much more is the app doing?
The third party does a lot of that. The third party looks up comps. The third party does the description. The third party does a lot of that. But there's still a human element to it.
Yeah, because I just imagine like you had to train your helper to do that stuff.
Correct.
Right? You probably couldn't just take some random pictures of an item and then send it to your helper based off of nothing but the pictures and her get an accurate description. Unless your pictures also included the measurements, which in that point, all you're doing is sending pictures of the item with measurements.
Yeah.
And you take a picture of every single flaw. You take a picture of it working. Like you're basically doing most of the work.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I can't imagine the third party taking that much off.
There are some apps like, Cellhound is one of the companies that we do work with. And, you take the pictures, you send it, but they have experienced resellers that, know the comps, they put the listing together and so on. And so they do it that way. But yeah, I agree with you. Like there's a lot in play. I put a comment on, I make these comments without Mike's permission. And I basically said, oh, good. So they're just going to sell Tommy Bahama for more money. Right. Because that's what it's been. Right. Even though by now the store that shall not be named has had the capacity to be major competition for resellers, a lot of stuff still falls through the cracks. Right. There's a knowledge game. There's a lot that the resellers bring to the table that right now technology cannot do. It just can't. Right. And I'm not going to mention all of them because I don't want to give all the ideas to what you should do, because maybe Mike and I are making our own AI software. But there are some things I would do that I think would be a game changer. Now, I want to bring that in conjunction with this story that I think it was back, late 2021 about in Washington, what Goodwill does, right? Because a lot of people have this misconception that Goodwill's, that the employees are in the back checking Instagram of resellers and watching YouTube videos, which they have done. I know Craigslist Center he's like popular in his area because of his YouTube videos in all the thrift stores, but this has been going on for a long time. So let me just share some of the pinpoints. So, this is talking about the process. The process starts at the curb, right? So the store manager, right? They get all the electronics, they plug them in, they see if it works, they remove the duds, and they sell the rest as scrap to a recycling place. Then after that, things that are unusable, right? They obviously send that to the dumpster. Then after they do that, when they see something cool is dropped off, staff members alert the manager and debate the price, right? And so they come up with the price for the nicer items. Then after that, then they go inside the warehouse, and inside the warehouse, there's people sorting. Team sorts the loot by type: toys, small electronics, housewares, books, shoes, accessories, and so on. And then the specialists take over. So there are specialists on top of just the regular employees sorting stuff. So the specialists, they're devoted to one category, right? And so they have an eye and they pick out the quality items, right? And so as they pick out the quality items, so for example, they bring in this lady. She's been at Goodwill for 7 years as a specialist. Knows a good pair of shoes when she sees it. And if she doesn't recognize a brand, she can refer to a list taped to her workbench that includes Keds on the low end and Gucci on the designer side. Prices range accordingly from $2.99 to $49.99. And then on top of that, the bar, they put out stuff on the retail floor. Then after they're done doing that, then they have the next level. So they load the merchandise and makes a cut into what she calls the shiny cart and wheels it onto the sales floor. So we've seen that at the store that shall not be named. And then there's other items. So across the aisle from Ross's station is a pile of potential treasures for online sales. While it's still possible to find gems at great prices on the store shelves, Goodwill has become much savvier about marketing vintage, collectibles, and high-end items. The vice president of e-commerce, retail, and donation strategy is visiting the Renton store. I think this is in Washington. It says they have over 14,000 active items. And that doesn't even include their nearly 120,000 books, DVDs, and CDs, right? So today's the stash that the store picked up were snakeskin boots, gold rimmed Dematasi cups, vintage Air Jordans, etched glass baby candle holder, a full set of antique some Limage China. Wow, I haven't seen those in a long time. And in-house, maybe because the Goodwills picked them all up. In-house experts estimate values, post offerings, and track the bidding. So I think that's where this third parties come in, right? So the average online sale is about $35, but every manager hopes for the kind of hidden gem that was dropped off at Portland Goodwill in 2006. So this is Oregon. Remember, the small watercolor by American impressionist Frank Weston Benson sold for a record $165,000. And then The Legend of Zelda, we talked about this, that sold for $411,000, right? And so this is the way this has been like status quo for like 2 decades.
Yeah, there's always been. I mean, you got to figure their pricing doesn't come out of thin air, and sometimes you look at items and you're like, who's pricing this? Right? This item's priced way too high, and this one's priced way too low. But you know, they're at least going to be right 75% of the time as far as are they catching things or more, right? Like even if they're wrong 10% of the time, 5% of the time, that's where you have room to come in and make that profit, right? Mm-hmm. You find that item that, hey, they didn't recognize that this brand, this model, this whatever is worth this. So it has already made it through their entire process before it got out to that point. So you can't feel bad if you find it and you pick it up. Like they did their, part. So you get to do your part now. But it would be interesting. I would like to, at some point in the future, maybe for a summer job for a few weeks, get hired at a thrift store just to see the ins and outs of not necessarily Goodwill, because I know that their hiring process is different. I don't want to take one of those spots from somebody who could use the job.
No, they hire resellers for the specialist position. I mean, I feel bad. I had a falling out with somebody that worked at the store shall not be named. She was always good to me, always take care of me. You probably know who this is. And at one time she reached out to me because she moved and she became their e-commerce like specialist. And she messaged me on, she was asking software and what do I use and so on. And kind of felt like I was giving into the dark side. And so I didn't share.
Oh, that's messed up, man.
And I haven't spoken to her since then. And
I mean, honestly, like that's the thing too, is like, do we really think are you that special or any of us that special that, I know that it won't take an employee of Goodwill like a couple of hours to find some
at
decent
that time,
YouTube channels and then a little bit of time of research?
At that time, I was in this mode of like, it's me against them. Right. And, I wish I wasn't that way. I wish what I had to offer, they could have found out pretty easy. And I'm sure they did, So anyways, I wouldn't say this is the end of thrifting. I don't think it's anywhere close. I would say be smarter about how you source. Mike and I have talked about how we get to items before they're donated. Like that lady at the garage sale I just talked about, the estate sale. She was going to donate them, right? And I got to those items before they ever got donated. Because I'm pretty sure if they went to the store shall not be named, those Pendletons would be selling at eBay prices. But guess what? I will be selling those at eBay prices. Right, because I got to it before them. And so network, make those deals. There's also other thrift stores that aren't as specialized or don't have the ability to specialize like Goodwill does. And so, no, it's not the end of thrifting. No, it's not the end of reselling. You just got to adapt. All right. Hey, did you get the option for bulk coupons on eBay yet?
I don't know. Maybe. I haven't really paid attention. I haven't really been using coupons, so maybe I need to.
So they work. They work. Yeah. It was funny. I sent out. So right now, I think, I don't know if this is the only way, but you can send stuff out to people that haven't bought from you in like 6 months or in 3 months or whatever. So I sent out a bunch for the people that haven't bought from me in 6 months. And I had all these sales and things were selling lower than I remember listing them. I'm like, what is going on? And I looked at, they applied the 20% off coupon. Right. So sales are sales. Like I can't complain. Like it is what it is. It wasn't even an offer. And so definitely keep an eye if you have, I think you need an eBay store, but go to, I think the marketing and then it allows you to like send coupons out for groups. So check that out. All right. So I don't know why people aren't talking more about this, but eBay is doing a lot. And I think it's worth paying attention to. So eBay, and I'll put the link on our video here. So eBay had this investor day, like 2022 highlights that, all their investors watching. It's on Vimeo. And, I watched it's only like a 5-minute video. But there's a lot of things happening. So the first one, this is going to be interesting. So they're creating this thing called the eBay Vault. It's like a 31,000 square foot building. And it's supposed to have close to $3 billion in assets in the next 2 years. Or I don't know, year or whatever it is. So what it's going to be, it's going to be cards. So for example, you send your card, like let's say you have, I don't know, let's throw it out there, a rookie card, right? It's some, a really expensive, let's say you have a Tom Brady card, right? And by the way, don't you feel terrible? Like Tom Brady's out of retirement again, but imagine being the guy that paid, I think it's like $581,000 for Tom Brady's last football that he threw for a touchdown.
No, he's back.
what happens to the value of that football?
Well, I mean, there really is no intrinsic value. It's all just like perceived value.
I know, but like imagine being that guy.
Yeah, well.
Or gal or whoever bought it. Like,
well, I mean, maybe it goes down in history as the last ball he ever threw for a touchdown before he came back from retirement.
That's what I mean. Like I don't know. Like I just thought about that. Anyways, okay. So in this eBay vault, you're gonna be able, you send in like, you know, your cards or whatever, and in that vault, like all the sales just go down. Like it never leaves the vault, right? Because it's kind of like I guess it's like a safe deposit box where it just stays there. So like if I have a card that's really expensive, right? eBay can authenticate it there. eBay can hold it there. And so let's say I sell it to Mike, right? And Mike, you know, this is, you know, a hedge against inflation or whatever. And he leaves it in the vault. And then a year later, you know, he wants to sell at a certain price. Then he sells it at that price. Right. And so it never has to be shipped anywhere. It just stays in the vault.
It just changes ownership.
Correct. I thought it was pretty cool. I think it's a pretty good idea, especially if you're in the sports card collector world. I think they're also doing this with collectibles. I'm not exactly sure what kind of collectibles.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it definitely has more of like a, when I look at things like NFTs and even how the stock market is opened up to average person, I could see that like almost the appeal to the wealthy elites where they have like art vaults where it's like that, where they don't even have it up on their wall for viewing. It's more of, yeah, like it's an investment. Like I own this property, this asset that I never even look at, but like I have ownership of it and it's part of my net worth. And so, yeah, at a lower level, I could see how that would be interesting if a company like eBay can kind of do that for the everyday person. And you've got items in there that are only worth, you know, several hundred to a few $1,000s, as opposed to like the elites where you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for assets that are hidden away and never seen. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. And I could see why a lot of people would be drawn to that, even though you don't tangibly get to have that collectible item. But yeah, if you're looking at it as this is my asset, it's a hedge against inflation, or it adds to my net worth. Maybe a little silly, but I definitely think there's a market for it.
Well, let me just read it because maybe I got the info wrong. And there's actually a quick YouTube video. They said once an item is in the eBay vault, customers know their valuables are secured and instant sale becomes possible. While many customers will keep their items in the vault for years, once it is in the vault, then ownership can transfer from seller to buyer in a matter of seconds without the need to re-authenticate, repackage, or ship the item anywhere. This unlocks a new way to engage with eBay. Imagine instantly buying and selling cards and sports memorabilia as a great new rookie lands a play in the final minutes of a tight game. Right. So, you know, let's say you have that Zion card or whatever, or whoever it is. I don't keep up on NBA right now. I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? Just, you know, I got life. But
I don't remember the last time I watched an NBA game.
So anyways, they said within a few years, we expect the vault will hold up to $3 billion in assets. That would make like a great movie, like Ocean's 13.
Where they're going into the eBay vault and they're pulling out, and it's like, if they just go like cliche eBay items, you know,
like, is this like an underground bunker? Like, I wonder these things, you know,
they go in there and it's like a crochet duck, you know, blanket that someone's grandma made. Oh my gosh.
No,
you know, like all these random, I know it's like real collectibles, but like that would be fun. Like, you know, like all the things like Weird Al talked about with the, I bought on eBay, you know what I mean? Like chia pets and random stuff. Like if that's what, like you broke into the vault and that's what's in the eBay vault, like all the cheesy
the great eBay vault heist. Yeah. Well, in the video, they show like somebody approaching the vault and there's like all these lasers just like in the way, you know.
I used to for a while. I haven't done like I always mispronounce it. I usually don't do that, but bullion. Yeah. You know, so I did a lot of silver years and years ago, and it was kind of just because I didn't have a lot of money to buy stocks at the time. There was drip investments where you can kind of get in at 500, but things like Robinhood didn't really exist yet.
Oh, you can do fractional shares in the eBay vault too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. But anyways, there was a company here in San Diego that I would buy my silver from, and they were kind of set up like that. Like they actually have a vault, and you go through like several layers of security and doors that open, and then you can buy a box if you wanted to and have items stored there. And it's like all, you know, secured, but like unreported stuff. So like you could put things in there and it's not, but anyways, that's where I'd buy my silver from. So I could imagine what a eBay vault would look like. That's because this place that I would go to is just in like a shopping center, like, you know, like in a shopping mall area. And it was a really nice facility. So I can imagine what a eBay facility warehouse could build if it was holding $3 billion worth of goods. But yeah, fractional shares, even that's an interesting concept. I like it.
Yeah, I was just, I know, you never know. Now, there's some other things. So another thing I thought was pretty cool that they're bringing 3D AI views of sneakers. So like, I don't know how they would do it, but like,
so like, you know how on Amazon, I'm not sure if that's what this is, but you know, on Amazon, like you could buy something, or like before you buy something, you could be like, see it in your room.
It's kind of like that, but this is where you rotate it.
Right.
You know?
But imagine if they did that with shoes and it's like, see it on your foot, and like you put your foot down and
augmented reality.
Yeah. Augmented reality. It's like, oh, those kicks would look so good on my feet.
Yeah. I think with anything, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's something, I don't know. I still like trying things on, you know, but yeah, maybe if we get to that place, it's kind of one of those things like, is the metaverse, like, is it even going to be, I know people are going to come at me, but is it even going to be valuable? Like metaverse looks like still like the video games of like 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it takes time.
I mean, you could sell, there's a yacht that sold for like 600,000. So anyways, all right. So this last one, this kind of was just like thrown in this video and no one's talking about it on social media, which I'm going to post this after we talk about it on the podcast when we drop this on Wednesday. And it's the idea that eBay is doing live e-commerce and auctions on eBay.
Like the Whatnot app?
Correct. Which I knew was coming. Like, how much would it take for eBay to do that? It wouldn't take much.
Yeah,
you know?
But again, it's like, I don't think eBay is the platform for that. I think the Whatnot app has that like more of a social media feel, whereas I don't see like young people who are like wanting to go on and like do that kind of, because I look at the younger generation. I look at people who are in their 20s, early 20s, even younger than 20s, like kids that are still in school. And I see the way that they interact with social media. And it's just such a different way of interacting than we who are using eBay and Amazon to buy stuff. You know what I mean? Like that is their world. And so I'd imagine like to find an influencer, like I follow this girl, she sells the best clothes and I watch her live, you know, auctions, and then she became a celebrity selling those things. And I just don't imagine eBay being the place where people are going to do that.
I disagree. I think eBay is still like, I've even heard like all kinds of influencers, even TikTok influencers talk about like, I get my vintage stuff on eBay. A lot of, you know, vintage sellers still, eBay is the platform. I find that Whatnot is getting a lot of coverage. And again, maybe this is going to work against my auction, but it's because they've chosen influencers in the reselling space to do it. And so that, you know, this is all that's all the YouTube videos, all the social media, and you know, they're going on there. A friend of mine's been on Whatnot for over a year, and he's not, you know, a huge influencer, but he's done really well on Whatnot. So I think it'll still be around, but I think eBay, it's a lot easier. Like I'm sure it's going to be integrated where like if you sell something, it'll pull that listing from your store. You know what I mean? Or, you know, I think it's, you know, the thing with eBay that separates it from everyone else is international sales, customer service, seller protections. Like there's a lot of things already built into eBay that all these other platforms do not give you. And so that's why it's still the number one go-to for the secondary market. And so let us know in the comments. Are you team Mike or are you team Orlando on this one?
Look, I'm not saying it's going to fall completely. I just think
once it goes live, I think popularity of Whatnot will wane.
Maybe. And I'm not saying that Whatnot is the thing that's going to be the thing. I'm just saying it's so hard because you've got to put yourself, like, think about like the students that you teach. And I don't know how much you see the way that they interact with social media. Mm-hmm. But like, for instance, I'll give you an example. When I was doing the Fifth Wheel Living, there are, I would say 20 plus Instagram like celebrities that do Fifth Wheel Living, and they make probably 6 figures off of their Instagram. And half of what they're doing is selling like, this is how I decorated my stuff. And look at this clothes that I'm wearing. I could sell. And like, I watch the number of followers who are like, where'd you get that hat? I want to buy it. It's like, oh, use my affiliate link in below. And like, I just see that like there's a celebrity culture that is built through social media that I think would allow them to sell things easier than like eBay. I don't think the celebrity
culture. eBay has the money to bring the celebrity culture.
Maybe, but if eBay becomes like a social media platform, which they haven't been able to do. Like, I mean, I know it's easy to look at a platform like
yeah, but then Poshmark would be successful, and it's not.
But that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that just because they haven't been the one to do it doesn't mean that that's not going to be in some way the future of reselling, right?
Yeah, who knows? We'll see. I see your point. I do. I think a lot of people give, eBay like a hard time about, the fact that, the younger generation, all this. And I think, I don't know if that's true. Like every movie I watch, like, or somebody's like, oh, where'd you get that? Nobody goes, oh, I got this on Depop, or I got this on Grailed, or I got this on Poshmark. It's always eBay, right? Memes are eBay, right? It's part of our culture.
Yeah. Again, though, part of that might be a like information bias, in the sense of the data that you're getting is because you're in a community that is saturated with eBay.
Yeah, but if I'm in the movie theater, that's not like information bias.
It is information bias.
Am I just watching old man movies? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm telling you that junior hires and high schoolers today spend 10 times more time on YouTube and on Instagram than they would ever spend on TV.
Agreed.
And movies, right?
No, so like I agree with you there.
The attention. So like if you're getting, it's like, well, when I watch TV and movies, the commercials are like this. It's like, yeah, but unless you're watching the celebrities that are on YouTube and Instagram, what is the information they're giving to the younger generation?
Could be. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to it. I think eBay could do this right. I don't think it. I think it does a great job. I mean, I've talked about the ins and outs in the previous podcast, and I'm going to be doing stuff on Whatnot, obviously too. But I think it's a lot less lifting for eBay to get this done than Whatnot, right? I mean, we have 147 million active buyers on eBay, right? International, and you have a lot more sellers on eBay. Like it's just different. So, but we'll see what happens. So anyways, that is our reseller topics. Yeah. All right. Are you ready to talk about some BOLOs? Bolo. What's your BOLO?
Yeah. So my BOLO is a weird one. When I was a kid, it was popular to hate Barney. Remember that? Barney's so terrible.
You love.
Yeah. But now that I've got a 4-year-old, and he went through a weird phase where he was like afraid of like a lot of stuff, and it's like I don't know where his fear came from.
That's just like every 4-year-old. Yeah.
But like it's like, I'm afraid of aliens. I'm afraid of this. I'm just like, where'd you even hear about aliens? Right? They're coming to get me. Right? Like, he's afraid of everything. So it's like, okay, we're taking away all shows. He doesn't even really watch a lot of shows, barely any at all. We're taking away video games, everything until this like fear calms down. We're like, okay, but honestly, like Barney is actually not that bad. A little annoying, but as far as like,
I don't know,
there's nothing coming out of it that's like got any kind of agenda or has any. So all of that to say, Barney's grown on me in the sense of like, I'm okay with my 4-year-old watching it. But the weird thing is like the only Barney that we have at the house is what grandma had from VHS from years ago. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, Barney VHS, this actually goes for a lot. And I'm using Barney as an example.
Sealed. Yeah.
Well, sealed, of course. But I mean, even opened lots or singles. So a lot of times you can get VHS at garage sales for like 25 cents a movie, $1 at most if you're paying like, getting some high quality ones. Even thrift stores that have high end prices, you're usually not paying more than $1 for a VHS. Yeah. Sometimes it's like 50 cents per movie, because there's really not profit there. Like even when you get the black diamond, Disney, we all know is like not a real thing. But there are movies, there's certain ones, there's certain like collectibles, and they're like on the regular used opened VHS Barney and other like old school kids shows and movies like that.
The Wiggles,
Little People, like various ones like that. Fraggle Rock, those go on the regular for $5 to $10 per VHS. And so if you can get a lot, like, I mean, I was like, okay, I'm noticing this. So I look up on OfferUp and I found a lot, and this lot had 40 plus VHS, and like over 20 of them were Barney. There was the Wiggles, there were some Little People, some various ones, and they wanted $20 for it. Right.
Yeah.
So it had been listed for over 2 months. I was like, oh, sweet. I could probably even talk these people down. So I send them a message like, hey, is this still available? And they're like, no, it didn't sell. So I threw them out. Right. And just to think that like that just goes to show like there is like so much of this, not so much out there, but there's enough of it out there that people don't really see valuable. But if you can pick them up for 50 cents and you're selling them for $5, and if you can pick up a lot, like if you go to a garage sale, I'll usually pass on VHS. But if I were to see like a handful, like 10 Barney VHSs, I'm going to say, hey, how about a couple bucks for all of them? Because I can lot them together and sell them for 30, 40 bucks as a lot, or sell them for $5 a piece. So just something I wouldn't have looked at before, because usually VHS I just pass on. Now I kind of have an open mind to specifically older kid shows. Because yeah, I can imagine now parents having kids are like, you know what? As annoying as Barney was, at least it's safe.
Yeah.
Or even grandparents like, yeah, like
even the plush. If you find some of the vintage plush, especially new, like it's good money.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man.
So my bolo is it's kind of it's a tough one because you got to test it and you got to make sure it's the right brand, but like camcorder battery chargers. Right? Because you know, some camcorders just they need that specific charger to that camera. Right? And they're not, you know, huge money. Sometimes they sell for like $40 to $50, right? And sometimes it's 20 to 30, but usually they're in that electronics section, the thrift store that you really don't want to sort through. But you know, I sell them every once in a while. I pick them up. Usually when I sell them, it's because I got them in a bulk buy, and I'm just like, I might as well list it. But you know, they sell for good money. I never hear a complaint. And it's good because, you know, even myself as a reseller, I pick up like a Sony camcorder or a Canon camcorder or whatever. I'm like, oh, I need a charger, right? So there's also a market for resellers who need these items. And yeah, you could, you know, buy like the cheap ones from China on Amazon, but you know, it's better just to get the brand, right? The one that originally came with it. And that's why they cost a little bit more on eBay, because you know, they're known to work, right? They're not going to, you know, short circuit. They're not going to, you know, end up lasting only once or twice. And so definitely keep an eye for those camcorder battery chargers. I've sold some for 40 to 50 bucks. And yeah, they're good. And not even that, like charger for certain tools, like any kind of battery charger usually is worth a look up. Some can go for several hundred, by the way. So keep an eye. That is my bolo. All right. Hey, also another thing I've really enjoyed last, we talk about this all the time, but even today I was running late. I had a class to teach because I still teach, you know, every once in a while to different groups. And I needed to shave my head. And luckily my skull shaver was in my middle console. Don't ask me why, but I think it's because I needed before church to do a quick shave the other day. And so I took out my skull shaver and man, look smooth for class. You know, it didn't have that unkept phase, you know, where like it's just enough where like you should start growing out, or just enough where you need to shave it. I was able to just take care of it. So if you don't know what we're talking about, skull shaver is a handheld electronic razor. Does a great job. Almost razor. I would say it's pretty close to razor look. Portable, great charge. Definitely check it out. Skullshaver.com in the link below. And our promo code for that is PHP.
Nope, it's Hustle.
Oh, it's Hustle. We changed it. Yeah. Sorry. Retract that. It is Hustle with a capital H.
I don't know if that matters. It's just Hustle.
Okay. Anyways, it's Hustle.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks for correcting me.
You're welcome.
We needed that. All right. What are you looking forward to, Mike?
Well, I'm happy to finally have a freed weekend. I can't explain how, and if you've ever sold anything big, you know how it can be, how time consuming it can be. So now that the fifth wheel is gone, I actually feel like I have a weekend or two where I can list and source and do those things that I've kind of been hesitant to do because I only have so much time, like all of us, and I don't want to dip too far into my family time. So that'll be nice. And then that'll also free up a little bit of time to kind of start the Discord, get that Discord going for our specifically for our Patreon followers for now, to kind of, you know, see how it goes, kind of get the feel for it, figure out how to make the servers work, and have that community of resellers who, again, not a cook group, but a place for resellers who are like-minded to get together,
engage discussion,
to talk, to ask questions, to offer bolos if they want to, but it's not like, hey, like, sign up for our Patreon and we're going to promise you the top 10 BOLOs this Q4. Like, that's not what this is. It's just a place for a community of our listeners coming together. So I'm excited to kind of get that going. And then also, since I would say October was when we first kind of started throwing around the idea of selling the fifth wheel, and we were pushing it back to like, okay, we'll list it in January. So we listed it in the beginning of January, and here we are into the middle of March. And so basically since October, my wife and I have been using the phrase, when the fifth wheel sells, when the fifth wheel sells, we can think of this, we can plan this, when the fifth wheel sells. And so finally, now that it's sold, we're like, you know what? This has been so crazy, so stressful. We've had so much just kind of on pause. Like, let's do a getaway. So we've got a spring break getaway, where it's just going to be me and her for a couple of days. The grandma's going to watch the boys, our sons. And we're just a couple of nights, not like a super long time. But as resellers, I think it's important to do that too. Like, we can easily say, let's hoard every single penny that we got from this fifth wheel sale. Let's instantly reinvest it back into business and into property or we could say, let's take a few $100 and let's enjoy the hard work that we put into it and kind of remember why it is we're working so hard. Right. So I think that's important too, is that occasionally, like you go to Legoland with your kids, we went out and had dinner. Like, you got to spend a little bit of the money that you get and not be a complete miser, or you'll be miserable. You'll end up with a whole bunch of stuff and no joy in your life. So.
Agreed.
What about you? What are you looking forward to?
So I'm being a miser. And so I got to tell you, taxes, the devil. Like, there's nothing in me. And I have a lot of bookkeeping stuff I need to wrap up and I need to get going. I'm hoping that there will be another extension like there was last year, right? Just so, but I'm a procrastinator, so it's just going to push it back. But if you're looking to go full-time reselling, make sure, I do have good bookkeeping software. I use GoDaddy and everything, but even with all that, I've always said, like, you want to make sure you get every deduction possible, and that does take work. And so I just got to block out some time, but there's always stuff happening, right? And so you just got to make the time happen. And I'm looking at going to 3,500 listings by the end of April. So that's going to take, major shift in time. And then I'm actually, where I'm living, I'm actually finally like organizing stuff. I know Mike hasn't seen it because he only sees like the podcast room, but when you move, right, you have a period of time where you have moving boxes still that haven't been unpacked.
Yeah, usually for a few weeks.
Yeah, or 9 months.
Yeah.
And so, I moved all my inventory and it's organized. I haven't lost anything, but I don't feel like I'm being really efficient with my space. And so I want to get back into that. I've kind of enjoyed reclaiming parts of the property I'm on. And so hoping to do that. But yeah, man, the taxes, I can't sleep well. So I'm tired right now. So anyways, I'm hoping to wrap those. I know I've said this for like 3-4 episodes now, but it's real. Just got to keep it real. So anyways, hey, hope you're all having great sales. Hope you're still listing, whether, you're finding stuff at estate sales, garage sales, the thrift stores that are still possible, local deals, whatever it is. Hope you're able to make it happen. And hopefully we brought you value in this episode. Make sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed the content. And even if you didn't, just smash that like button. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Late.
Peace.